the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Temple of Speed. IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, they've all been here. But this weekend, it's all about the SCCA National Championships. Over 900 drivers will show up this weekend, but only 26 will have the opportunity to kiss the bricks. It's all about Indy. Welcome to Haggerty Race Day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we're getting ready to kick off E-Production, the last of our production classes to run here at the runoffs. As you can see, it's kind of a gray and hazy day. There is some rain in the forecast. It's not a matter of if it's going to rain, only a matter of when. And sitting alongside me is Tom O'Gorman. My name's John Phippen. Glad to be with you for this E-Production finale. And Tomo, there's two guys at the front who've got 7 championships between them. I think it's going to be a battle between them.
It really is, but there's quite a lot of time between them on the grid, a second spread between the top two cars, and Hayward's got some interesting stories about the first one, I think.
Exactly, but let's talk a little bit about this circuit for those of you maybe joining us for the first time. This is a 2.6-mile road course on the infield of the oval. Tomo, take us around.
Sure, we kick off the lap on the wide front straightaway. A lot of room for that green flag. You're going to see him fan out 3, 4, 5 wide when that drops, but a heavy braking zone over 130 miles an hour into turn 1, into turns 2 and 3 that increase radius, and then a little quick tap of the brakes for turn 4. Pretty fast in these E-Production cars with lots of grip. Then an easy flat out through turn 5 before a braking zone and passing opportunity in the carousel at turn 6. But you have to set up to the left to come through turn 6A and get onto the Holman straight. Then entering sector 2, which is the S's. It's a pretty short sector, but very critical for racing. Turn 7, 8, 9, and 10 all get a little bit tighter before you come back up onto that banking. Turn 11 will bring you into a really tricky braking zone, the last passing opportunity on the lap, really, before you get to turn 12, 13, and 14. 14 is not flat out in every car, but I bet it is in E-Production.
As we mentioned, a track map presented by Mazda. Mazda supports the racing community with face-to-face and virtual coaching at the runoffs and at events throughout the year. Support like this has made Mazda the most driven car in SCCA road racing. And speaking of driven, we have got, like we said, a couple front runners at the front, 7 championships between them. Jesse Prather's car, our tire rack pole sitter, has been dominant wherever he's raced this year. But as we head down trackside to the third member of our broadcast team, Hayward Wagner, who's patrolling the grid and the pits, we understand there's some drama for Jesse.
Yeah, guys, intake gate is what we're calling it. Jesse Prather is famous for not changing the car. He gets the car where he wants it. He does not change the car. It's one of his mantras. You don't change the car. Well, this year, he didn't have a choice. A fellow competitor asking some questions about the intake on his car. They dug into the rules, decided better to be safe than sorry. They found an intake for this car in a pick and pull about 20 miles from here. That was the easy part. The hard part was the adapter plate to mount it up. Had to go to Dayton, Ohio to Turner Motorsports to borrow one to be able to get the car back together and onto the grid. But as you can see, Jesse sitting here on pole, the beautifully prepared Z3. He did have an off at VIR early in the race that cost him, so he's looking for some redemption in that car. The other car I want to bring to your attention is the 32 car. The 32 car back about 5 spots in the grid. This is a car that was willed to Anna Chrisman's dad. Grayson Upchurch has tried to win the runoffs a whole bunch of times, a whole bunch of ways. A couple of years back in E-Production, he drove one of the first guys to go to a 10-top with a 240Z. This is a car that's been owned by several SCCA members. There are 3 generations in 2 different families connected to this car this weekend, and this is a really great example of how teams and families come together to honor those we've lost, take next generations, put them in an opportunity to win. There is a lot of emotion surrounding that car right now.
Great insight, especially in the Jesse Prather case. You know, he's an engine builder of some repute. You even saw in Matt Reynolds' car, it's a Jesse Prather prepared motor in that machine. And so his cars show up all up and down the paddock. He's a second-generation racer. His father, Kent, was dominant in his day as well. So I think this throws a little bit of monkey wrench into Jesse's very calm, very highly prepared plan.
It does, and what the format for the week is 3 days of qualifying. You get one attempt every day. The last day was Thursday. Now it's Sunday. He's had 3 days to figure out that new setup, but he hasn't had a chance to test it. He doesn't know what the implications of that change are. We really don't know the technical details behind it either. It could be the same, could be, you know, a little bit of power robbed out of that car. But he did have over a second on Matt Reynolds in qualifying, so he had a little bit of slop to play with as he pulls off the grid, and Reynolds is going to follow him out. But maybe if that number 34 has lost a bit of pace, Matt Reynolds can keep him honest.
Exactly right. As the cars pull away, let's introduce the starting grid. As we mentioned, our tire rack pole sitter is Jesse Prather out of Topeka, Kansas, in the Kansas region, the 4-time and defending champion in that BMW Z3. He's also Sports Cars picked to finish atop the box. Sports Cars picked to finish second is Matt Reynolds right alongside him out of Fair Oaks, Texas, in the Lone Star region, a 3-time champion, most recently in 2018 in a Mazda Miata. Those two broke the track record that Matt Reynolds set here 4 years ago. John Brackey, another experienced competitor, 3-time champion in his own right, but not since 2012 has he been atop the podium. Brackey out of Fargo, North Dakota in the Land O'Lakes region. He has also stepped over to the BMW Z3. Sports Cars pick to finish third is the 95 of John Hainsworth out of the South Jersey region in a Mazda RX-7. Next up is Bill Lampkin in the 28 out of the Colorado region in a BMW 328i SE36. And Austin Bradshaw, the highest placed rookie, making his first runoff start in the 41 car out of Dundee, Oregon in the Oregon region in an RX-7. And then it's Grayson Upchurch in that number 32 Nissan SRL 311 Roadster that we talked about on the grid. He's out of the Central Carolinas region. Peter Norton in the 50 car out of North Carolina region is in a Caterham 7 America. Aaron Johnson out of the 08 out of the Finger Lakes region in a Honda S2000. Starting 10th, the 06 of Doug Piner out of the North Carolina region in a BMW Z3. Then Lance Lohman, veteran campaigner in the 20 car out of the Western Michigan region in a 73 Nissan 240Z. Joe Carr out of Petaluma, California in the San Francisco region in the number 12 Mazda Miata. Next up is Darren Dilley in the 80 out of the Oregon region in an RX-7. Kurt Frischi out of the San Francisco region is in the number 40 car, another RX-7. Paul Pinadar in the number 74 out of the Texas region in a Caterham. Charles Vaccaro starts 16th out of Patterson, New York in the New York region in an RX-7. Rick Kudrowski in car number 3 out of the Houston region in another Caterham. The 09 of Madison Bolden out of the New England region in a Mazda RX-7. And the man making his 63rd runoff start, that is a record, Mark Webber in the 25 car out of the St. Louis region. He's also the winner of the Hawk Breakthrough Performer Award. He picked up 6 spots between Tuesday and Wednesday qualifying. 16 car is Steven Jeffers out of the Indianapolis region, home driver in his Mazda RX-7. Sam Halkias, the 2009 champion of the field, back at Road America in the 83 car. He's in a 75 Triumph TR6. 66 is Rich Olson out of the Chicago region in an RX-7. Car 8 is Don Tucker out of the Mid-South region in a Mazda Miata. Car 24, Coyote Black out of the Steel Cities region in an Acura Integra Type R. Scott Jeffers in the 11 car from the Indy region in a Mazda RX-7. Mike Anderson, the 2014 Formula Mazda National Champion, a little deeper in the field than he'd like to be from the Cal Club in his BMW 325. 27 starting position is the 75 of Rich Walke out of the Chicago region in a Healy 3000. Starting in 28th, car number 7, Larry Zvatin out of the Houston region in another Caterham 7. Then the 47 of Donald Walsh out of the Susquehanna Valley region in the 1988 Mazda RX-7. The rookie in the field, the number 77 of Yuri Colossos out of the Florida region, making his first runoff start in his RX-7. And Ron Olson in the number 81 out of the Chicago region in the only Mazda RX-8 in the field. As the safety car brings the field down into turn 12, the safety car will just go straight off onto the banking there. That's where he'll stage in case he's needed. And Jesse Prather, new paint job on that BMW Z3 than he has run throughout the season. So a special runoffs livery. And let's see if he and Matt Reynolds, John Brackey right behind him, the top 3 drivers with 10 championships amongst them.
Keep an eye on the 5th place starter, Bill Lampkin, in that 328i. That car is the quickest in a straight line all through qualifying. This green flag is going to be a great opportunity for him.
As they work their way through turn 14, the field nicely formed up. John Brackey in that black BMW right behind. John Hainsworth next to him in row 2. Here they come as the green flag flies. Prather gets a pretty good jump. Matt Reynolds tries to jump in right behind him, and then right behind them is John Hainsworth in that Mazda RX-7. But Prather showing good straight line speed as he comes down, but 3 wide behind them. Matt Reynolds going to try to sweep the outside, and he gets it done. He'll take second spot. Then the 95 of Hainsworth. Brackey has to fall in behind him in 4th position. Just behind them is the 28 of Bill Lampkin. As they work their way through turn 4, Prather and Reynolds locked together. Prather's car probably a little bit heavier than Matt Reynolds' Miata, so Reynolds might have the leg up in the twisty bits of this car.
Peter Norton and Joe Carr side by side just ahead of this battle that we're watching. Whoa, the 12 of Carr way wide, the 12 of, Carr way wide, but takes the position through turn 6. He's up from 12th. Oh no, and this is the storyline we were so excited to watch. Grayson Upchurch with a mechanical issue has pulled off. It looks like a mechanical anyway.
Yeah, he is off in the grass, and don't know if we're going to go full course or not. He may be far enough off track that it won't be an issue, but the field continues to work its way through the S's. Prather out in front of Reynolds as they come up into turn number 10. Matt Reynolds gets a good run through those twisty S's right on the back bumper of Jesse Prather's BMW.
Yeah, Prather not looking as strong at the start as we might have expected. Reynolds is right with him, as is Hainsworth. The top 3 really tight here in E-Production, and it doesn't look like Prather has the car quite underneath him yet. He looks a little bit hesitant in the corners, but maybe he's just getting the rock swinging up.
Yep, could be. It's just better getting some temperature into the tires. It's coolish, but it's very humid, just about 70 degrees ambient temperature. Everybody's kind of keeping one eye on the weather radar because there is rain forecast for later in the day. But so far, touch wood, we've been dry. And these 3 definitely beginning to put some distance. And here comes Hainsworth giving a challenge to the 3-time champion Matt Reynolds, as we've got another car off right up against the barrier at the exit of turn 12. So we've got 2 stranded cars, but we're staying green for the moment.
Believe
nope,
that.
I spoke too soon. Just now the full course yellow comes out. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe that's Doug Piner in the green BMW that was pulled off with another, what appeared to be a mechanical issue. So Grayson Upchurch is facing counter race on the inside of turn 4, which means he at least spun, had a directional change, if nothing else. But I'm not sure if it's, again, a mechanical issue or otherwise, as the field comes back together. It's going to give another opportunity for them to shuffle this restart. But Hainsworth looks like the Charger so far, from 4th on the grid to 2nd.
And I don't know what happened to John Brackey, the 3-time champion. He had fallen kind of off the back of this 3-car battle, but then closed up very dramatically right at the end of the front straightaway just before the full course yellow was called. So Brackey now part of this 4-car breakaway, shall we say, at the front. But good job for John Hainsworth in that 95 RX-7, as we'll get a replay of what brought out this full course yellow. Yeah, you can see the 32 working his way through turn 3, and it looks like it just went flat on him.
Yeah, it's a flat tire. The left front had gone down, and he was trying to get it over to the corner worker station, but in the wet grass, it spun around on him, and he got stuck. That's just very unfortunate because he was doing everything right.
Yeah, exactly right. It looked like a tire went down, and he just tried to pull off to get out of harm's way and let the race go. But unfortunately, Grayson going to have to climb out, not even making 4 corners on his runoff start here.
And that's heartbreaking, but this is really best case scenario. The car is fine. It's just a tire. Put a new tire on it, but that's so heartbreaking. We saw the family standing around it on grid, even a little bit of a letdown for sure.
Understand we've got another car down on pit lane, and Hayward Wagner's got that. Hayward?
Yeah, guys, I'm with Michael Borden. We're talking about Spec MX-5. You guys seen a lot of sports cars in this race, a lot of open-top cars, a lot of Mazdas. Michael, you were working with Mazda on a program to bring more people into racing with the NCMX-5 chassis.
That's correct. So yeah, that's the generation after what is Spec Miata. It's got a pretty similar rule set as that, pretty basic parts, but it makes it a real fun car to drive out on the track.
So what's the opportunity for folks who maybe are looking for a different class or have never gone racing? What does this car do for them?
It's a little bit faster than the Spec Miata, which makes it a little more fun. It's also a great car to develop your driver skills. It's fairly easy to drive and get it up to speed, but to get the last few tenths out of that is really, really difficult. So if you can get it out of that car, you can pretty much jump into anything else and be quick.
Mazda's always invested in the ladder system. They want to bring people up through the sport, move on to other things. Where can folks that are interested in that learn more about this car?
You can go to specmx5.com. There's tons of info on there about the rules and how to build a car, where to find one, what's all the series rules and points and all that kind of stuff right there.
Well, thank you for the information. Enjoy the weekend.
You too, thanks.
Another way that Mazda is absolutely, continuing their commitment to racing in all forms, but especially for the SCCA. There are more Mazdas raced than any other brand in motorsports on any given weekend, and this is just another step on that ladder.
And there are a lot of them in this field between the MX-5s, or I guess at this generation, the Miata, and the RX-7s, plus one RX-8 out there. And they're one that's going to be challenging for the lead. That rotary in John Hainsworth's car looks very stout down the straight. If he can stay awake on this restart, he might be able to just motor by Prather for turn one.
While we've got a break here for this safety car period, let's take a break to acknowledge some of the partners that make the racing possible for the SCCA.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land. Where great expectations grow, and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda CX-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.
Welcome back to Hagerty Race Day for E-Production at the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, as we've had an early safety car period as we had a couple cars stranded out on track. And it looks like we're going to go around one more time behind the safety car, but hopefully the cleanup crews pretty much got that job done. I'm a big fan of production racing. I guess I'm showing the gray hairs on top of my head because production racing's been around for a long, long time. E-Prod is the fastest of the three production classes, but kind of the hallmark of it, these cars are pretty highly stressed, and attrition can certainly be a factor here.
They are. They're essentially production-based chassis, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of production racing too. I grew up, and these were my favorite cars when I was a little kid.
Yep.
Watching at Mid-Ohio, listening to you commentate the races.
Well, aren't you nice? Thank you.
But they're production chassis that you can do a lot to. You can change all sorts of suspension and engine parts, but they are very low displacement always.
Yep.
E-Production being only, I think, 2.5 liters or something in that realm. So they have to be high strung. I mean, they're clearing 130 miles an hour, 135 miles an hour. It takes them a while to get there, and to get that power out of them, you've got to spin them strong. And a couple of those cars actually were down for one flat tire and then one other mechanical issue on one of the BMWs. And the BMWs are an interesting storyline. They've kind of come into this category in the last 2 or 3 years. There's both the 3 Series, or the Z3 convertibles, and then the 3 Series coupes, both very, very quick.
So, speaking of age, there's what the Caterham 7, although that's a 2000 vintage Caterham. Of course, it's based on the Lotus 7, which was one of Colin Chapman's dominant kit cars for the most part back in the day. And you see a lot of Lotus 7s run in some of the lower of the production categories. But the Caterham's carrying on the honor here up in E-Production, as I think we've got just about a half a dozen Caterhams in the field. They're very different than the rest of the cars that are out there for sure.
Peter Norton had a great start. He's running 5th right now from 8th on the grid, but got swamped pretty good down the front straightaway, as you'd expect in that little car with not the greatest aerodynamics. He had to race his way back up quite a bit. The other car I was looking for, the 12 of Joe Carr, had come from 12th to be running in that 5th spot, but slipped to 9th before the caution came out. That's a red Miata.
And coming from the back is another thing that we want to talk about. Sunoco, the official fuel of the SCCA, sponsors the Sunoco Hard Charger Award for the driver who makes up the most positions from his or her qualifying position to their finishing position. So we always keep an eye on the cars coming up from the back, and one of them to be looking at is Joe Carr in that number 12. RX-7, or excuse me, Miata, forgive me, as he was working his way forward. I noticed that we also have a Honda S2000 in the field, Aaron Johnson in that 08 car. I know that's a car you're familiar with.
Yes, tons of fun to drive, and it looks especially cool with the windshield chopped off of it. Another car that might be eligible for that charge real quick is Coyote Black from 24th to 18th on the start, and the only front-wheel drive car in the category with the Hawk Performance livery on it. He's charging forward too.
Coyote Black, a driver making only his second runoff start, and looking for a better performance than his first start and finish, as back in 2019 he finished 21st in this class. So Coyote looking for more. But we are getting ready to come back to green as Jesse Prather brings that brilliantly liveried Z3 up on the cam, and he gets a pretty good jump on John Hainsworth in that RX-7. The Miata behind him of Matt Reynolds as they come to the line, and we're back underway with just about 30 minutes remaining in this race.
Backed him up perfectly so that Hainsworth and the rest would have no opportunity to charge him down into turn 1. Brackey deep on the brakes. That's the white BMW in third, wiggles around, and then a battle for fifth.
Indeed, so we got the Caterham of Peter Norton and Darren Dilley in the Hillsboro, Oregon-based Mazda RX-7 as they're working their way up into the top 5. But you can see Brackey there, again, dropping back just a little bit. The car seems to have great straight line speed as he's able to get right on the back bumper of Matt Reynolds coming into turn 1, but then loses a little ground when they get into the twisty bits here.
Maybe still learning. He's coming over from a Miata previous years. I think he got even Podium in a Miata in past years, but switching over to this BMW as they seem to have a lot of potential in e-production. But you're right, he doesn't look super confident. Whoa, Hainsworth dumps a tire into the dirt just a little bit, and that's going to let Reynolds have a run on him.
Reynolds and Hainsworth side by side coming down the Holman straight into turn number 7. Reynolds sweeps around the outside and gets it done, saws at the nose off that 95 car of Hainsworth as they work their way through this single file section. We haven't seen any passing going on. Occasionally you'll see somebody make a lunge down into turn 10 right here as they make their way up onto the banking and heading for turn 12. Another great overtaking opportunity, one of the heavier braking zones on this track. But it's pretty flowing, all things considered. There's not a lot of heavy braking events, and Brackey really giving a shot on John Hainsworth.
Yeah, Hainsworth reeling from that small mistake, and probably ultimately a good thing that they sorted it out so quickly so that one of them could at least keep the pressure on Prather rather than bickering between the two of them for second. But it's looking like Hainsworth having a hard time recovering from that small mistake. Brackey's got the pressure on him, and Norton is in this one too, as finally Hainsworth looks like he's got his confidence back.
Norton also in only his second runoffs as he competed at VIR as well for the first time, as the field stretches out just a bit on the straightaway as we suspected. And there's Lance Loban in that yellow Z car, one of the older cars in the field. In fact, I think it is the oldest. It's a 73 Nissan 240Z. No, I take that back. Grayson Upchurch's Nissan was the oldest in 1970. But that 73 240Z has been racing in this class for a long time. And Lance Loban doing a good job staying in front of the much more contemporary 12 of Joe Carr in that 99 Mazda Miata. Loban out of Bath, Michigan, working his way into turn 5, down into that sweeping turn 6. We sort of jokingly called it the skid pad, but man, look at Carr go around the outside as the California native trying to set him up for an over-under move into 6A. Loban gets a little squirrely, but he's able to maintain the lead.
I think there might have actually been a little bit of contact there as the 12 of Joe Carr tried to keep the momentum up. He added a bunch of distance and added a bunch of momentum and then tried to keep it going, maybe going for like an over-under kind of through those couple of corners. And I think I saw him just kind of clunk into the back, but either way, it was very close.
Indeed, but Loban's car seems to have pretty good grunt. The 6-cylinder motor in that 240Z should be able to pull the Miata off the corners pretty well, and he's showing that right now. As Loban sweeping it out right to the edge of the Gators' teeth at the exit of turn 10. And then the run into turn 11. We get a replay of this, and you can see as Carr kind of jumped over the curb and then goes to the outside. And it looked like he had it done here, but Loban just kept it tight right down into the, and right there, yes sir, there was a touch, as we can see a little bodywork flying off to the right. So you're right, Joe Carr got a little too close for comfort, but Loban, no harm, no foul. He's able to maintain his advantage.
The idea was good. The execution just wasn't quite right as they come back up onto the front straightaway. And for 2 laps in a row, the fastest car on the track is actually Matt Reynolds from second. So the changes, whether it be the changes or not, that they had to make to that Prather mobile has slowed the car down just a little bit, or he just hasn't found his footing in this race.
Exactly right, as We look at the lead battle now as we're back into the 71. That's the silver Miata of Matt Reynolds, the 3-time national champion. And that's the 4-time champion, Jesse Prather, leading from the pole. And whether or not there's any difference in that car, as we look at his lap times, a 150.8 on the last lap, and of course that was behind the safety car. We should expect a 148.1 in qualifying trim. As the fuel burns off, we might see the cars get a little closer to it, but I think Jesse's car maybe not quite on the edge that it was in qualifying with that change, but you know, Jesse's a good wheel man and a fantastic car builder. If anybody can make it happen, he will do it.
It's pretty interesting. These cars on the surface have very similar shapes. You'd think they're pretty similar, but it's a 2.5-liter engine in the Prather BMW Z3. It's only a 1.8-liter in the Mazda Miata. So these cars are going to make speed very, very differently. If you see the trap speed times, the highest mile an hour on the lap, Prather at 140 miles an hour, Matt Reynolds only 134. So that Miata is definitely slower on the straights, but it's going to be a lot quicker in the corners where they are now. And look at him close up just a couple of car lengths. Reynolds quicker in sector 2 and 3, but Prather's got sector 1 covered with those straights.
Again, Prather's car also a little bit heavier, so might be a little harder on the tires. So we'll see as this race wears on. Timing and scoring has determined that we may not get all 19 laps in. As you can see, the button in the upper left-hand corner has turned to a timed race. These races are 19 laps or 40 minutes, and so timing and scoring has made the calculation that after that yellow flag period, we're probably going to be a timed race here, so 23.5 minutes remaining. John Hainsworth in the RX-7, a little distant in third now as he's fallen off that first place battle by about 3 seconds. And John Brackey also right there in the other BMW Z3 in the top 4. Brackey again making the move over to the Z3 chassis this year. So he's still getting comfortable and getting familiar with it, but I think Prather kind of started a trend. Everybody saw how dominant that car was, and I think a lot of other folks have decided, well, maybe that Z3 is the way to go in this class.
Sometimes there's no replacement for displacement, right? It's got that bigger motor in the car, and it's just quicker from it. But I think, look at Brackey, yeah, he did have a lot of pressure from Peter Norton in the Caterham 7. Almost didn't see it because he was eclipsed behind the silhouette of that BMW, but he's there and pressuring hard for 4th.
Indeed, Peter Norton right there doing a fantastic job in that Caterham out of Pelham, North Carolina, as he sweeps it through turn number 7. Again, you would expect the Caterham to be really strong in this part of the course, where it's all about change of direction, the light and nimble Lotus derivative, if you will. The Caterham should be all over the heavier tin top cars in front of them. And you can see Peter Norton stays right with him. He probably is going to lose a little ground on the straightaway. As we look at his trap speed, he's at a 130 and some change, almost 10 miles an hour off what John Brackey's able to do in that Beamer.
Yeah, the Caterham is a great handling car, but also a very fast accelerating car. It just doesn't have a very good top speed because of the aerodynamics. So the pointing and shooting for the 50 car is great. It's just that long straightaway causes him some problems. He might be able to draft off the back of Brackey if he can stay tight, though.
Yeah, those front fenders act pretty much like parachutes, and unfortunately, the high-speed aerodynamics not really as good. The car is all about being nimble, light, and changing direction very, very quickly. As we follow that battle, a little deeper back is Darren Dilley in that number 80 old school RX-7. And here's the battle we've been watching between Lance Lohman and Joe Carr as they continue. Lohman doing a little weaving on the straightaway. Look how much narrower that Z car is than the Miata behind him.
We've added another half a Miata width to it with that wide body, which is part of the reason I love production cars so much. They just look so cool with the wide bodies on them. Hearing from Hayward on pit lane while we watch Lohman work sector 1, that both cars at the top of the field, Prather and Reynolds, opting for the soft compound tires, and that BMW with the more power but the heavier weight on those soft tires as we go green. Maybe not going to be able to manage the tires nearly as well as Matt Reynolds, and last time through, Reynolds was 0.6 quicker than Prather on the lap.
And we've still got 21 minutes, half this race still to go, so this one is far from settled as Matt Reynolds keeping the pressure on Jesse Prather as that silver number 71 Mazda Miata right on the back bumper of Prather's car, and it looks like Prather losing a little ground in the twisty bits. Just as we said, whether it's the tires going away or maybe the intake manifold change, he doesn't have quite as much torque off the corners as he once had. You know, it's just conjecture on our part, but he's definitely got a battle on his hands.
And we shouldn't discredit Jesse too much. He could be just kind of managing his pace a bit. He knows that Reynolds can't just drive by him in the corners, and if he knows he's got to manage the tires and leave some for the last 20 minutes of this race, he could just be backing it down a bit in those sectors 2 and 3 corners. Because look what happens when they come onto this straightaway. He's just going to motor away.
Yep, exactly right. And it looks like he can build up enough of a gap as long as he can lead coming out of turn 14. He's probably pretty good on the final lap because he really does open up an advantage down this long straightaway. Reynolds in the slightly lighter Miata is able to pick up some ground under braking. But here's the battle again for the final step on the podium between Hainsworth, Brockie, and Peter Norton. And then just a little deeper back, Lance Lohman and Joe Carr continue their battle. A little dust or smoke coming off the back of Carr's car. That's not a good sign at this early stage. Whether it's a body rub, I'm not quite sure. But Lohman able to keep him behind him as they work their way down into turn number 1. Probably the best battle on the racetrack right now between these two.
There's a lot of jockeying happening right now. A lot of clean laps, just putting their heads down and figuring out where the strengths and weaknesses are. Not a lot of side-by-side action happening throughout the field, but this is critical time for the race. And you're right, there's definitely some smoke out of the back of the number 12 every once in a while as he gets on the curb, loosens the car up, heads into turn 4.
Look at Norton all over the back of Brackie down the Holman straight. Brackie with the straight line advantage there, but Norton right on his bumper as they go through turn 7 and then in through the S's. Norton should really be able to close right up. And again, he's just looking for an opportunity to perhaps get that pass done. He needs to get it done early in the lap if he can, and then build up a lead in this part. As we've got a car off into the gravel, the 23 of Coyote Black out of the Steel Cities region. Coyote off there, I'm guessing that's at turn 4. Yeah, exactly. As sadly, we're going to see our second safety car of this race, as they're going to have to get Coyote extracted from the gravel trap. I don't know whether he just left his braking a little too late or if he had some help.
I see some tire lock up straight to where he's sitting, so he just kind of locked up and went off is what we can assume. It's been a tough week for Coyote. Broke a camshaft in his car actually, and had to figure out how to get a new one. Walked around the paddock until he found someone with a Honda camshaft that would work for his car and rebuilt the head while at the track this week. And unfortunately, it's going to end in the gravel trap for him.
Coyote in the only Acura Integra in the field, a 2000 Integra Type R. As we get a good look at the 3-time champion Matt Reynolds. Of late, Jesse Prather's had his way with this E-Production class. The 4-time and defending champion. The last time Reynolds won it was in 2018. So his hopes for a win here are certainly in good shape because he is right with the pole sitter who, like I say, in qualifying trim was almost a second faster than Matt, who in turn was a second faster than John Brackie in third. So tip of the hat to John Hainsworth in the 95 car. He went for it right at the start in that RX-7, getting around John Brackie, and he's been able to hold his own in that final bronze medal position.
The dynamic on the restart here will be interesting because we know the straight line speed of Prather and Hainsworth is stronger than Reynolds, but Reynolds' pace is very, very good in that Miata, the silver Miata sitting second. The problem for Reynolds is whether or not John Hainsworth decides to make himself a problem at the restart, really, because I think Reynolds is a quicker car, just not to turn 1. If Hainsworth can get a good start, the 95 that we're taking a look at here, he will be able to motor past Matt Reynolds, and that's going to kind of slow Reynolds' pace to getting back to Prather.
The RX-7 with the tailpipe coming out the back. I'm guessing Hainsworth's car doesn't have a rotary in it. Maybe it does. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Just notice that it's with a more stock appearing tailpipe than we see in the GT3 cars, where they exit the exhaust out of the side of the car, and we get that dramatic flame coming out of the tailpipe. With the tailpipes at the back of this car, it's not quite as dramatic. You don't see quite as much flame,
right?
Because there's a longer exhaust between the exhaust ports on that rotary engine. Obviously, we're going to go around one more time behind the safety car because it does not pull off. With about 15, 16 minutes just about left in this room. Look at the 80 of Darren Dilley and that orange first generation RX-7. Hillsboro, Oregon, long tow for him. A lot of drivers from the Pacific Northwest here this weekend, as well as from California. say, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a bucket list track for a whole bunch of people. The 2 largest entries ever in SCCA Runoffs history were right here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The total lap record, nearly 1,000 cars when we first visited in 2017. And this weekend we have nearly 900. And so those 2 eclipsing what was the record for a long time at Mid-Ohio. We had 740 at our best year at Mid-Ohio in that 12-year run of runoffs. That's when I got really hooked up with the runoffs broadcast, doing PA work at Mid-Ohio, and stuck with it all through the Mid-Ohio rain, and then to Heartland Park and up to Road America. And I've had a chance to go to Daytona, and it's just been the last runoffs that I worked actively was the last time we were here, and it was just I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to get back at it here as they come back. Sam Halke is there, the 83 car in that Triumph TR6. I can remember put on a dominant performance up at Road America in changeable conditions as he gambled on a tire choice and made the absolute right choice and just drove away from everybody with the right tires in that TR6. It took his first and so far only national championship in 2009. Mr. Kramer is sitting behind me, just whispering in my ear that it's the best sounding E-Pod car ever. I'm inclined to agree. Sammy's car always has a nice sound to it. That livery is also something that he's had forever. Harkening back to the Valvoline days, showing my age again, as we see the field working its way down the Holman Straight. Great, great drone shots. The drone added to the Apex broadcasting crew this year for the first time, and when the weather permits, we're able to get that drone in the air. Love to see those overhead shots. Deeper in the field, there's the 66 of Rich Olson out of the Chicago region in his 85 RX-7. Right behind him, the 25 of Mark Webber in his 63rd runoff start. Mark, for a number of years, was one of the staff photographers for SCCA, but I found out in the press room that he sold all his cameras. So he's out of the picture-taking business, but makes it a point to get into at least a couple classes at every runoffs, and he holds the record for runoff starts. All right, the pace car pulls off up onto the banking. Jesse Prather, Matt Reynolds, John Hainsworth, John Brackey, Peter Norton. Can Brackey, with that 2.5-liter motor, do something with Hainsworth on this restart? As Jesse's going to try to time his restart just as closely as they can. Keep an eye on the flag stand. They can't pop out until the green flag flies. And we are green, and Prather just pulls away, and here comes Hainsworth. But just as he did on the start, that RX-7 has some great grunt, and he's going to bring Brackey with him. Reynolds has to be careful. He could find himself fourth here after this restart. Yeah,
critical moments for Reynolds. He's got to keep as many positions as he can. Sweeps the outside of Brackey, and they're going to almost touch, so close between the two, but Reynolds keeps the position. That number 71 Miata is quick, but now has a problem. He's got one car between himself and first.
Exactly right, and Brackey's car, again, not handling quite as well as that nimble Miata, and here comes Peter Norton in the Caterham right behind Brackey, also realizing this might be his best opportunity, coming off cold tires, and there he goes down the inside of turn 6. Norton moves up around John Brackey. Can he get enough of a lead that he can keep it when they get onto the straightaway where Brackey's got the definite advantage? Reynolds all over Hainsworth, going to try to get back into second spot. Meanwhile, Prather with a big grin under that crash helmet loves it when these guys are battling behind him as we got another spin. Another of the Caterhams goes around. No contact with the barrier, and it looks like he's going to be able to continue. So that's a good sign. As you see, looks like the front splitter a little bit deranged on that number 28 car of Bill Lampkin, so he's gotten into someone.
We heard he actually took a trip through the pit lane, so he's not even on the lead lap, but he's trying his best to kind of get back up through the traffic without maybe interrupting too much of the racing. But that car was fifth on the grid. It's incredibly quick as Brackey comes back for fifth. Norton around the outside. He's going to drive him all the way to the curb, but Norton's not having any of it. He tucks in behind.
And right behind him, Darren Dilley in that orange RX-7, making this a 5-car train for second place on the podium. Matt Reynolds did get back around John Hainsworth, so now he's going to set his sights on reeling in Jesse Prather once again. But Hainsworth might be close enough that he can do a repass here. Here comes the RX-7. You would expect it to have a little more pace than the Caterham on the straightaway, and indeed he does, but then there goes Peter Norton diving down to the inside much later on the brakes as he'd be able to retake that position. But Dilly trying to get to the inside of him, but that nimble little Caterham was able to get back in front and stay there for the moment.
Weighing less than, or to the tune of hundreds of pounds than the RX-7, but at the front, Reynolds getting shuffled back at the start cost him 1.7 seconds, a gap to Jesse Prather, who actually put in his personal best final sector on that restart lap, so he was head down trying to get as big a gap as he possibly could. But it's not a lot. We still have about 10 minutes of racing. Reynolds is going to have to put in some burners here to catch up to Prather, but he's back through and is starting to pull away from Hainsworth just a little bit. The top 6 still in the same shot. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great to see. This is one of the most closely contested production races we've had all weekend, as some of the other classes have been a little more dominant by 1 or 2 players pulling out to a big lead. But right now with these 2 safety car periods, we've got the top 6 all in the same shot. In fact, all at the line, all within about 3 seconds of each other. As Matt Reynolds, in the area of the track where his car is the strongest, just coming out of sector 2 and then into the final sector, sector 3, where Prather's bigger motor does give him a bit of straight line advantage. The RX-7 of Hainsworth staying as close as he can, the Marlton, New Jersey driver. Seeing if he's got anything for Matt Reynolds here on the straightaway. Reynolds is visibly closer. It was 1.7 at the line last time. Let's check the interval as they cross the stripe this time. Prather pulling away once again, and his timing and scoring updates 1.2. So Reynolds has taken half a second out of Jesse Prather's lead, but he may be running out of laps.
Yeah, the clock is ticking quickly for Reynolds, and you can see just by how much more track he's using, how much harder he's pushing in the corners for that Miata to be able to run that sort of pace, where Prather can run a fairly conservative kind of driving line. He doesn't have to work the car nearly as hard in the corners because he can rely on the straight line speed. He may actually hurt himself if he tries to work the car too hard in the corners, where Brackey is having to push hard to try to stick up with John Hainsworth, but this is for the bronze medal. These guys pushing, and Norton is still lurking in the background, but he's got a raceability problem. He's got 2 cars in his way where he's quick in these corners, and he's got to just kind of get a little bit more commanding than he is in those corners to get through.
Yeah, I think Norton is going to have to try to make his move right at turn 1, where he's got an opportunity to outbrake these guys and then try to get away from them in the twisty bits here. But unfortunately, as you can see, the straight line speed of that Caterham not in his favor. As Brackey really sawing the wheel, he's working harder than Hainsworth. As we've got another car in the gravel, is the 16 of Stephen Jeffers out of the Indy region in his RX-7. That's off at the outside of turn 6, as he may have just gotten a little help or carried too much speed. We'll see if they're going to go full course yellow, if they're going to let him race for these final 7 minutes. And yep, the safety car is coming out again. And if they could do a quick snatch and grab, we might have a 1-lap sprint to the finish here. We'll get a replay of the off.
Looks like he might have just gotten too deep into turn 6, locks the brakes up. He's already off the track on the left side here.
Yep.
The camera pans out and just can't get out of the gravel traps. These gravel traps are big and deep, and we've seen across the entire weekend too many of these full course cautions just for simple offs where cars get stuck. But hopefully we can make this one quicker than the last and resume this, maybe a green-white checker for Eat Production.
Yeah, that would be great. As laps behind the safety car taking about 4 to 5 minutes. So with only 6 minutes remaining, it won't be the first race this weekend to finish under the yellow if it does, but we certainly never want that to happen if we can avoid it. And I'm sure Matt Reynolds would like one more chance to see if he can do anything with Jesse Prather on a restart. John Hainsworth could find himself with a silver medal here if he can get that kind of restart he's had the 2 times. A little faster, guys.
Yeah.
There you go. Just pick up the pace,
Yeah,
just a touch.
We want to watch some racing. The other point is those gravel traps are wet too, so they're packed, and as soon as you're stuck, you're stuck. It's just nothing you can do about it. That's obviously what they're there for. But you make a great point about the restart with Hainsworth last time. Reynolds almost dropped to 4th. So if we do get a restart, he probably would rather this thing end now. He disagrees with us that we want that restart. He would rather just kind of keep the silver at this point, where he knows if we go back to green flag racing, there's a potential that he wouldn't even podium.
Yeah. Although it's a short run to the yard of bricks from the exit of turn 14. 5.5 minutes, a little less, remaining in this one. So Jesse Prather probably feeling pretty good right now either way. I think whether we restart or finish behind the safety car, he's pretty confident that I think the gold medal is almost in his grasp and will make him a 5-time gold medal winner. But the 3-4 cars just behind him definitely could shuffle the order as we're going to go around. Oh, we're going to the checkers. That's what we were afraid of. This has happened several times this weekend. But the word from race control is they're going to get the checkers this time by. So sadly, we'll be denied the opportunity to race to the checkered flag, but take nothing away from Jesse Prather. He had a kind of a monkey wrench thrown into his plans, literally and figuratively, as rather than take a risk that in post-race tech that his intake manifold could be declared illegal and he would be disqualified, he decided to allow discretion to be the better part of valor, and he has made the change and still made it happen, as he will take the car across the line first and notch gold medal number 5 for the driver out of Topeka, Kansas. And Matt Reynolds, wondering what could have been, comes home on the box in second spot, just as Sports Car predicted. That will be his 6th medal, but one short of the one he would want. And John Hainsworth comes home in 3rd. Again, Sports Car got it right this time. They picked the top 3 exactly, as Hainsworth will take another medal to take his medal count up to 3 at the runoffs.
You see Hainsworth giving himself a hand, a little bit of applause and fist pumping, happy to be on the podium for sure. So I don't know that any of these guys can really be disappointed ending under caution, while we would have loved to have seen some racing, because Prather didn't put a step wrong, comes home with the win regardless of restart. Reynolds probably knew the restart would have been bad news, so he's got to be pretty content with that checkered flag. And Hainsworth looks like he's having a great time too, celebrating inside that RX-7.
Yeah, exactly right. We saw, I think it was Cliff Ira earlier on with a big celebration when he took the gold medal. So watch that race if you want to see what a driver celebrating a victory is all about. But Matt Reynolds going to pull alongside Jesse and offer his congratulations. You can see a thumbs up from the top 3 as they're going to do a formation finish here across turn number 4.
That is cool.
Yeah, that's nice. Again, these guys all know each other. They race each other all season long. They know what this means, and this is a big deal. Finishing on the podium in the runoffs is not a minor race win. It is something these drivers work for all their careers long. We have teams of drivers that Mark Webber, for instance, his best finish ever is a 4th. Despite 63 starts at the runoffs, he would kill for a podium finish. And so these drivers don't take that for granted, make no doubt about it. The gold, the silver, and the bronze are a big deal at this National Championship Runoffs level. The 58th running here this year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, only the 2nd time we have visited this legendary facility. Jesse waving to the corner workers, as these drivers all respect the work that the corner workers do. We talk about the drivers and the crews, but the angels in white spread all the way around this track. They consider this a big deal as well. They come from all over the country to take part. My broadcast partner, Greg Kramer, actually comes early just so he can don the whites and work a corner or two in the run-up to the final race day to give him a little inside knowledge about who's quick. And I appreciate Greg for doing that, and all of the rest of the SCCA volunteers that make the racing possible. They work timing and scoring, they work grid, they work registration. Every specialty you can imagine makes this runoffs possible, and we don't get an opportunity as often as we should to thank them for their sacrifice, most of them doing it on their own dime, coming here to make it possible. But into the pit lane comes the field behind the safety car. And Jesse Prather just a few minutes away from taking gold medal number 5 around his neck. As Jesse not only a talented driver, but a talented car builder and engine builder as well. Known mostly for his Miatas, I think, but I don't think there's anything that he won't tackle, but the Miatas are something that he's certainly got the most experience in, but I think everybody was just a little surprised when he took on this BMW effort, and he certainly has brought it to fruition in a big way. Thumbs up from all of the grid workers down there as our top three finishers make their way down into the view of Hayward Wagner, who will have the interview with our leader before he sets off on his lap of honor with the checkered flag flying. And then Matt Reynolds and John Hainsworth will both have an opportunity to talk to Hayward as well, as Jesse Prather comes across the yard of bricks for the final time this weekend. As the man at the front, big thumbs up for Jesse. He's already got the driving gloves off as he pulls it right on the mark. He'll get his helmet off, and then our man Hayward will have a chance to talk to Jesse, who, despite maybe a little wrench thrown his way, got the job done. Jesse going to get that gold medal around the neck. He's got a big smile for CC as she puts that in place. And of course the Hoosier neckband. Jesse gets the hat adjusted. Let's go down to Hayward Wagner with our 5-time gold medalist.
Jesse, a bit of drama this week getting to the grid, but once you got there, it looked like this was a race you were able to manage pretty effectively.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, I feel super bad for Matt Reynolds. That was really, if we'd have gone green the whole time, there's no doubt in my mind he would have won that race. I was able to cool off my tires on these restarts, and he would run me down every single time. So I thought maybe I could manage him from the front because I had a little more straight line speed, but man, his car was hooked up and he was coming. And I guess, you know, I hate to see a championship race decided like that under full course caution, but like a lot of people have told me, the record books don't say how you want it.
You were here at Indy a couple years ago. You brought a tribute car. This is a very different effort. How does this feel for you?
So a win at the runoffs is always a major thing for me. We all work all year to strive and qualify and put our whole maximum efforts together to come for this one race. But you know, I've said it in the past and I'll say it again. I'm almost more proud. I've got Matt Reynolds behind me, really good customer. John Hainsworth, it's not my engine, but he's a good friend. And then, of course, again, John Brackey back there in the new Z3. It's an engine I built for him as well. So to me, that's the real victory. But you know, I do try real hard to win these races, and I'm going to keep making them earn it.
Well, congratulations to you. Enjoy the victory lap.
Thank you very much.
Talk about a gracious winner. Jesse Prather just, you know, saying right up front that had this race gone green all the way, he might have had trouble keeping Matt Reynolds behind him, and that's just an indication of just what a great competitor he is. Hayward's got Matt Reynolds in his sights. Go ahead, Hayward.
Matt, I just spoke with Jesse, and basically what he said was if this had gone green, flag to flag, there's no way he could have kept you behind him. Is that what it felt like for you?
I believe so. You know, just watching his car, and when we'd get it, you know, a few laps in, I could tell the heat was building up and he was sliding around a little more. He definitely had me on the straightaway, so I was doing everything I could to tuck in, coming out at 13, and stay with him. But yeah, I mean, if we would have kept it clean and green, I think we would have had something at the end.
Well, congratulations to you on another Runoffs podium. Obviously not the medal you most wanted, but it's another medal.
Appreciate it. Yep. I just want to thank my wife, Taylor, my dad for coming here, and Chris Campbell, Eddie Williams, Danny Byers for all the prep on the car throughout the week. It's been a phenomenal car. We haven't really touched it at all except for tires and fuel. So it's been great. I want to say hi to my mom and my family and friends at home.
Congratulations. And we've got third here as Jesse's rolling away on his victory lap, which kind of kills our ability to hear each other. Another podium finish for you. You've had quite a few of these. Is this satisfying or is this frustrating?
Yeah, considering the week we've had, we said a podium is a victory. You know, this wasn't the plan. The plan was for me to drive Kip Van Steenberg's 914. That lasted all but the test day. So we got my car out. We had a suspension failure, so we took 2 days putting it back together, and we got it sorted. So yeah, a podium is a win considering how this week has gone.
Congratulations on the bronze.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hayward. And again, 3 gracious competitors giving credit to their crews and all the hard work that went into this event. And it's all a matter of coulda, woulda, shoulda. It could have gone green, and it didn't.
Yeah, the big takeaway from the end of this race for me is there are certain classes that community and competition are equal.
Yep.
And this one is certainly one of them. Not every class has that flavor, and you love the ones that do, because you could tell all those guys tons of respect, tons of love between them, and congratulations again to Jesse Prather.
Yeah, exactly. It's really what the spirit of SCCA racing is all about. Is Jesse taking his lap of honor with passenger in tow. Passenger's going to have to keep a good grip on that checkered flag because Jesse's going to make him do it. As you can see, the corner workers celebrating that victory with the Formula One style flagging salute. Jesse with his hat on backward, he's styling. Great to see. A great young man, and like I say, a second-generation racer that not only wheels the car, but builds a lot of cars for a lot of people. And he's a very popular constructor, and with good reason, because he knows what the heck he's doing. Sports Car Magazine had a great feature article about Jesse some issues ago, and it was really a great insight into it. But let's look at the provisional results for this race as E-Production in the history books for 2021. Jesse Prather over Matt Reynolds and John Hainsworth. John Brackey with a great run into 4th spot. Peter Norton, perhaps the drive of the day in that underpowered little Caterham. Darren Dilley in the 6th position. Bill Lampkin, Lance Loban in the 240Z. Kurt Frischke and Sam Halkias, former champion, coming home in 10th spot. Sam, another driver for the Sunoco Hard Charger Award. A big move for him up into that 10th place spot. But let's look at the highlights of this race, as we had plenty of racing between them. At the initial start, as expected, Jesse Prather pulling out an advantage. But look at John Hainsworth in that RX-7 as he got a good run. John Brackey down to the inside, almost got 3rd spot on the initial start, but Hainsworth able to power his way through. And then, unfortunately, story for Grayson Upchurch in that number 32 Nissan on the restart after we got him out of harm's way. Prather just drove away from everybody else. A good battle between Lance Lohman and the 12 of Joe Carr race long as they worked their way together. It actually came together at the end, and then a final full course caution to extract the 23 of Coyote Black from the gravel trap. Unfortunately, one more restart. Jesse Prather able to get away, and Matt Reynolds stayed right with it. And then the final full course yellow that actually ended the race, Steven Jeffers off at the outside of turn 6. And there are the double checkered flags for Jesse Prather, sadly behind the safety car, but he said in his interview, if it had gone green all the way, he may well not have been able to hold off Matt Reynolds. So that puts a period on E-Production for the 2021 SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Thanks again to Mazda for presenting our broadcast. For Tom O'Gorman next to me, Hayward Wagger down the pit lane, my name's John Phippen. Thank you so much for being with us. More racing yet to come in the 2021 Runoffs. Until then, we'll see you down the road.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land, where great expectations grow and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda CX-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.